الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. وقال سبحانه وتعالى: يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وهو عليم بذات الصدور. وهو عليم بذات الصدور. And another place في مقام الآخر يعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. يعلم خائنة الأعين وما تخفي الصدور. Yeah. So this is today. It's a very all the names of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala are, you see, very exalted and very important to know. But there are some names which are with regard to our relationship to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. There are some which are very, you can say, effective to make us alert, to make us serious and responsible behavior. So this is one of the names, is Alim, Al-Alim, the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Al-Alim. This is what we are going to do today. This is in the sequence. This is coming after the name which we had last year time, that was Al-Fattah. And after that, in that hadith, Imam al-Tirmidhi, which presented that hadith from Abu Hurairah, he has mentioned that name, in which it is the name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is in that sequence. It comes Al-Alim, Al-Alim. And this name, that has been mentioned in Quran so many times. And there are some in which there is more elaboration of it. So that's why the verse I read here is a little bit, or the verses which I read is a little bit elaboration, and there's more verses. And we'll try to read them as well, some of them at least, because there's plenty of verses on this attribute of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And if you see Ayat al-Kursi, there it is very, the names which are in Ayat al-Kursi, this name is there. What is there? Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum la ta'khudhuhu sinatun wa la nawm lahu ma fi as-samawati wa ma fi al-ard. Man dhal ladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi idhnihi. And then comes ya'lamu ma bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum wa la yuhituna bi shay'in min 'ilmihi illa bima sha'a wasi'a kursiyyuhu as-samawati wal ard wa la ya'uduhu hifdhuhuma wa huwa al-'aliyyul 'azim. From there we can actually also start the point. Although I read the other verses, each verse which mentions this name of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, Alim, they are really very effective in shaking us and making, that means to make us alert, and to feel it. Yeah. And that's why there is a saying, you see, there is a saying of one of the saints, you can say, that he is mentioning it as a saying of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. That means as Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is saying to us, إِن لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا أَنِّي أَرَاكُمْ فَالْخَلَلُ فِي إِيمَانِكُمْ. If you don't know that I see you, this is about seeing, you see, but uh, it relates to the ilm, because the sources of ilm, although Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not related to this, is not related to Allah. That Allah sees, of course, that's an independent attribute by itself. Has nothing, no one is related to another one. For us, it is different. For us, for knowing, we have to see, or we have to listen, or we have to sometimes read, but that's not the thing with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it's not that, but here he mentioned in this respect, but this is not exactly related to it. It's about the al-nadir. If we go to that, we'll talk about it. But anyway, there's mentioned that if you don't know that Allah sees you, then do whatever you want to do. And that's in a way it is related. And then he says, وَإِنْ عَلِمْتُمْ أَنِّي أَرَاكُمْ, and if you know that I see you, فَلِمَ جَعَلْتُمُونِي أَهْوَنَ النَّاظِرِينَ إِلَيْكُمْ, then why do you make me the least important watcher? If Allah is watching you, how are you don't give the importance to that watching of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It's about being. But there is, in this regard, if you see, there is another verse, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in, I think it is in Surah Al-Mujadila, I suppose, yeah, I think so. Just let me see. Yeah, it should be. It is in Surah Al-Mujadila, I suppose. Yes, it is in Surah Al-Mujadila. It's the verse number 7 in Surah Al-Mujadila, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Alam tara anna Allah ya'alamu. Here it is related to the ilm. Alam tara. Don't you see? That means, aren't you aware? Seeing here is not by eyes, by mental seeing. So if there is idea that is there, so that's called seeing, but that seeing is different. That seeing is the seeing from your understanding, from your mind. So alam tara anna Allah ya'lamu ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard. Aren't you aware that Allah knows all that is in the heavens and all that is on the earth? And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, ma yakunu min najwa thalathatin illa huwa rabi'uhum. There is never in, you can say, in a private gathering of people, secret consultations, najwa, 3, but Allah is the 4th, and 5, Allah is the 6th, or more than that or less than that, but Allah is with them. أينما كانوا, wherever they are. ثم ينبئهم بما عملوا يوم القيامة إن الله بكل شيء عليم. Then he will inform them on the day of judgment, on the day of Qiyamah, what they were doing, they used to do. بما عملوا, what they have done. That means in the world. ثم ينبئهم بما عملوا يوم القيامة. And then he will inform them of what he did. They have been doing, what they did. That means when they were on this earth. And he will inform them about what they did. And Allah is aware of everything. Allah knows everything. So this is about the ilm of Allah. Is so wide, so broad, so vast. That's why it is this mabalagha, alim. I always mention, and that's always all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why there's mabalagha in almost every name. Alim, Ghafoor, and so all those names, Ghaffar, Qahhar, Jabbar, all those names are there's mabalagha. So Alim, Qadir, Hakim, and so on. So that's here Alim again in the same way as I have mentioned before. When I start talking about the Ghaffar, for example, so it's Ghafoor and Ghaffar and Ghafir. You see, Ghafir is the base form. Ghafir, this is the base form. And then it's Mubaligha. Ghafoor, Ghaffar are Mubaligha. So this is here in the same way. Alim, like Alimul Ghaibi. Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahada. The knower of the hidden and the apparent. Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahada. So Alim, but Alim and Allam. Allamul Ghuyub, as it comes. Innaka anta Allamul Ghuyub. That's what Isa alayhi salam will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the response. When Allah will ask me, oh Isa, did you tell to the people to take you and your mother as God besides me? He said, Ya Allah, how could I have told them anything which I am not supposed to? And I don't know. As long as I was with them, I was preaching the same thing, to worship you alone. But when you took me away, you took me to you back, then I don't know. But you are the Allamul Ghuyub. Innaka anta Allamul Ghuyub. You are the one who is knower of everything. So that's Allamul Ghuyub. That's there the word Allam comes. And Alimul Ghaibi wa Shahada. That also comes to Alim. So this all is the same, but it is Mubaligha and Mubaligha. Alim, Allam, Alim. Alim has come many, many times, but the Allam and Alim has also come in the Quran. So we are talking about this Alim of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Alim. And that's where I recited some verses before. And this verse, and also the verse Ayat al-Kursi. What is there? First of all, before going to that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all the awsaf, all the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are from eternity to endless time. Are from when there was nothing. That's what it means. Huwa al-awwal wal-akhiru. Is the first and the last, the verse which I recited today in the beginning. Huwa al-awwal wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batin. Is the first and the last. What does it mean? It means he is the one. When he was there was nothing. When he was there. And there will be nothing, but he will be there. So that there is no beginning and no end for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And all the asaf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are like that. There is no beginning of the attribute of Allah. Generally, for other creatures like us, we learn with time things. Our increase knowledge keeps on increasing. And then later on, in the later ages, we start forgetting also. So our knowledge, we gradually gather the knowledge with experience. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his knowledge is all at one time. There is nothing can increase or decrease in his knowledge. And it is with him from the time he is there. That means from the beginning. So that's what it is. He was Alim. And he knew everything what is going to happen. That's why I said that is a very, very vast and very wide and vast name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All names are like. So it is knowing. Allah knows not when the things happen. We know when the things happen, right? And that's why there is increase in our knowledge with time. But Allah knows everything from the beginning to the end. Things which have never happened, not has happened yet, or will happen at some time, in maybe 1,000 years, in maybe 50,000 years, maybe 100,000 years. Allah knows it from the beginning. So that's why that's the name. And it is important to understand. That's why it is here in this verse of Surah Al-Hadid, which I recited in the beginning. هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن. He is the first and the last. And I explained the meaning of the first and the last. That he is the first without any beginning, and is the last without any end. He was there when there was nothing, and he will be there when there will be nothing. Yes. And then he is ascendant, and he is very close. Zahir. That means he is apparent. Zahir wal batin, intimate. There are different translations. Batin would mean anything which is inside. That's why it is translated that as intimate. And Zahir is the outer. Zahir. Zahir means apparent. The meaning of the Zahir is apparent. Or the Zahir also means those who is dominant. Yeah, both meanings are there. But we are talking about the last part of this verse where he says, وَهُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And he is aware of everything. Now this name together, you see, it is very beautiful. You see that from the beginning. There is no beginning. When there was nothing, he was there. And when there will be nothing, he will be there. One without beginning, last without an end, and he is all-knowing. All these things he knows at the time from beginning, he knows it. هُوَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. And also about the part that he knows the things which are also open and the things which are hidden. Although it's not related to the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Zahir wal Batin, but I'm just referring to it that in a sense, it refers to our things, which we are, with things which we do it openly, or with things which we do it inwardly. Allah knows it. Allah knows the things which we do it outwardly. And Allah knows also the things which we do inwardly. And that's what it means. Alimun bidhati sudur. That verse which I mentioned, ya'lamu kha'inat al-a'yun. This is Zahir. I mean, you steal the eye. That's what it would mean. Kha'inatul a'yun means the stealing of the eye, you can say. Or the kha'ina. Kha'in means doing something very in a hidden way. Taking a glance and a glimpse of somebody. That means a person who is not supposed to look at a ghair mahram, for example, and he watched. He looked at it with in a way nobody noticed it. That's what it means. Kha'inatul a'yun. Khiyana from the ayn. So this is kha'inatul a'yun. Wa ma tukhfi sudur. And that which is hidden in the hearts, in the chest. So that means your intentions, your ambitions, and all those things which are inside, your desires, everything. Allah knows it. So that's where the importance of intention comes. So, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned to Musa alayhi salam in the very first time when Allah addressed him. In Surah Taha, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى. إن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى. If you express clearly, openly, with a loud voice, something, you say something in loud voice, in a audible voice, تجهر بالقول. So of course everybody, but he listens that, and as well as وَمَا تُخْفِي الصُّدُورِ, and those things which are hidden in the chest. No, here it is different. That is in تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى. يعلم السر وأخفى. Then he knows the secrets and the most hidden. And the two things are mentioned here. Sir is a secret. Akhfa is more hidden. That's where, of course, the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so deep in that sense. What is the sir and what is akhfa? Sir, we know of something which is secret, and there's two ways of explaining it, sir and akhfa. What is the difference? One thing of explaining is that sir is something which you sometimes share with someone. As Hudayfa radiallahu ta'ala anhu was known to be the Sahib Sir Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he had only mentioned to him the names of the Munafiqeen in Medina. Nobody else. So he was called Sahib Sir Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, something hidden, something which Allah has not shown to you. So in Sir, sometimes you have it's something which is secret and you share it sometimes with someone. But a thing which is akhfa means you have never shared it with anybody. It's totally hidden in your chest. This is one explanation of it. And another explanation some of the scholars have mentioned, that the akhfa means that you yourself don't know yet. What are you going to do? And this is very beautiful. That means he knows the sir, that means some things which you have, you are hiding, your secret, it's your secret, you are hiding it in your heart, they are not mentioning to anybody, you have some secrets. Akhfa is that you yourself don't know yet what you are going to do, what you will be doing. That's akhfa. So sirr wa akhfa. This is the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so deep and so, as I said, so vast that it is really, we cannot comprehend it fully. Not just as we cannot comprehend the that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his being. Similarly, we cannot comprehend his attributes as well. And particularly the attribute of knowledge is so vast. And it relates, so many things are related to it. All the hereafter, the questioning and all the records of the things which we have done, they are all, Allah knows it. So who, that's why it is mentioned in Ayat al-Kursi, يَعْلَمُ وَبَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. He knows what is ahead of them and what is behind them. You see? He knows what's ahead of them. That means what they have not done yet, what they will be doing, and what's behind them, what they have done. يَعْلَمُ. So ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. And that means the creation, the humans, they would not be able to comprehend anything from or perceive anything from his knowledge except what he permits and allows. And that's why nobody can intercede for anyone except by the permission of Allah, because Allah knows it. And that's why it is mentioned in this verse. In other place, we know that there will be shafa'ah in Quran. And also the shafa'ah has been mentioned. But here it says, مَن يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. Who is going to intercede on anybody's behalf except by his permission? And it's the reason. Because what can you tell to Allah that he doesn't know? If you intercede for somebody, when you mention, this person is this good, this has these qualities, and he's like this and like that. Okay, maybe he did something, but he was under some pressure or whatever. So what are you going to give any additional information? Nobody can give any additional information to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala about anybody. So how can he intercede? But Allah, by his grace, he allows as an honor for some of his servants who were righteous, like those, the Anbiya, wal Siddiqeen, wal Shuhada, and Salihin. Allah would permit, I will show those who were striving the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, suffering because of that reason. And there day Allah will show the honor. He will honor them by saying, okay, what do you say about this person? Huh? Allah doesn't have to ask anybody. Huh? And he will say, Ya Allah, forgive him. Of course, would be always the question, answer. Because these people are very sympathetic, very loving. They will always say, Ya Allah, forgive him. Huh? So this is to show the honor in front of all the creation, the honor that Allah is giving to those who were striving and suffering, getting basically oppressed by the people on this earth. So that's the way. So here it is again, that's why in Surah Al-Kursi, it's very beautiful here. Man dalladhi yashfa'u indahu illa bi'idhnih. Who is going to intercede in front of him except by his permission? So there will be an intercession by permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And here it is given the reason why not. Why? Who can do that? Because يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. He knows everything what is ahead of them and what's behind them. What they have done and what they have left behind and so on. يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. And they have no ability to grasp or to hold or to conceive any knowledge except by his permission. So this is you see the vastness of the subject of a knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it relates again to a very big subject, and that's the qadr. That Allah knows everything, and that's how He has written everything, what every individual will do, and everything that will happen from the beginning to the end of the times. What will happen? It's all written. Fi kitab. See, everything Allah has, He knows it, and He has put it in Lawh Mahfuz. So that the subject relates to the qadr, and that is connected to the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why it's really important. And that's why there comes the point that if we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything, then we will be careful in what we do, right? And that's why the verse which I read before is the same thing, that and Allah will inform you, He is with you. If there are three people having some private conversation, some secret meetings, and then the fourth is Allah, and if there are five, the sixth is Allah, and if there are more than that or less than that, Allah is always with them. Why? And what they should basically get this message? What they should take from this? That He will, وَهُوَ مَعَهُمْ أَيْنَمَا كَانُوا, and He is with them wherever they are. And that's why it is, some of the scholars have also mentioned all the time, that when Allah says that He is with you, means with His knowledge. Allah is everywhere doesn't mean that Allah is everywhere in that meaning, in that sense, that He Himself, His being is there. No, it means His knowledge is there. He is there with His knowledge. He knows everything which is happening anywhere. So, وَأُمَاهُمْ أَيْنَمَا كَانُوا ثُمَّ يُنَبِّئُهُمْ بِمَا عَمِلُوا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. And then He will inform them about what they did on the Day of Judgment. Because إِنَّ اللَّهَ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ, because He knows everything. So this verse, for example, and the other verse, which is also very interesting, in this same way, on the same meaning, that is a moment. Yeah, I think that was in my mind. I had in my mind, but anyway, there are many verses, as I said before. There are many verses which they talk about the subject of Allah's knowledge. And now, just to let you know about something very beautiful, that when Khidr alayhi salam, you know about the Musa alayhi salam went to Khidr alayhi salam, and he wanted Why he went, you know the story about it, that relates to the knowledge also. That's why I'm mentioning this story of what, of whom, of uh, Musa alayhi salam, which is mentioned in Surah Al-Kahf. And this is a very interesting story, because it starts with the matter of knowledge. Because somebody asked the question, this is a hadith in which Rasulullah has mentioned that once he was giving some sermon, some talk to his people, Musa alayhi salam, and then somebody asked the question, is there anybody who is more knowledgeable than you? And he thinking, of course, correctly, rightly so, being the messenger of Allah, who would be there who has more knowledge than you? Right? So he said, no, I don't think so, that there is anybody. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, actually, Allah puts in tests and puts in situations even those who are very close to him, are very, very beloved. And this is a way of tarbiyah. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Musa alayhi salam, Ya Musa, there is a servant of mine who has knowledge which you don't have. When Musa alayhi salam heard this, he got shaken. And he said, Ya Allah, tell me. I would like to see, I'd like to meet that person. This is how it started, that journey of Musa alayhi salam, when he went there with his servant. One of his servants was with him, and he said it was Yusha ibn Nun. He is the closest servant of Musa alayhi salam, and he got the prophethood after Musa alayhi salam. So that's where you see yeah. So the subject, the main thing is that he went, and you all know that the story how Musa alayhi salam reached there and what happened after that. The first thing which Khidr alayhi salam, before the thing which is not there in this story, that I will start with that one first. And that thing is that when they were sitting on this boat, this is the first thing that happened. They wanted to cross and to go to the other side, and there was a boat, was some fisherman or somebody was there who had his boat, and he took them and would like to drop them on the other side. And then they sat in this boat. And then when the boat was going, a bird came and sat on the edge of this boat, and then dipped its what do you call it? Its beak in that ocean or that river, and took some water and ran away and flew away. Then at this point, Khidr alayhi salam said to Musa alayhi salam, "O Musa, my knowledge and your knowledge and the knowledge of all creation, all that is in the creation, all of that knowledge, whatever knowledge, every creator, the creation, anyone who has in creation any knowledge, all that together is not more than that what this bird took from this ocean." That's the comparison, Allah's knowledge and our knowledge. And then you know what happened, that he broke a piece from took away a piece of wood from the boat, and then he killed a person, and then he built a wall, all those things. And at the end, but because in the very beginning of the journey, when Musa alayhi salam expressed his desire or the reason for coming, and mentioned that I have come to know and get some knowledge from you, what you have, That means what you have and I don't have it, right? Then what did Khidr say to him? He said that إِنَّكَ لَن تَسْتَطِيعَ مَعِيَ صَبْرًا. You will not be patient with me. You cannot be. لا تستطيع. And you cannot be patient with me. He didn't say that you cannot be patient with me. إِنَّكَ لا تستطيع منك صبرا. And then he said the reason for that. إنك لن تستطيع معي صبرا وكيف تصبر على ما تحيط به خبرا. And how you could be patient about things that you have no idea about it. Hikmah. And it will be very, very upsetting because of that. So that's what happened with him. So the reason what here it is mentioned that these are the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is very vast, very vast. And that is the point to be basically noted and remembered, that and that's why if we only know how much Allah knows, which we cannot know that what all Allah knows, never ever. But that much what we know is basically important, sufficient to make us responsible. That is the part which is important. That we have to understand this part. And that's why, there's another verse which I wanted to mention, and I think it is coming now in my mind. That's regarding somebody who had stolen. This is in Surah Al-Nisa, this story. And he wanted to put the blame on someone else. He was a Muslim, but he wanted to blame, Munafiq, and he wanted to put the blame of this stealing on a Yahudi. And he was definite that he will succeed in that. And who would favor the Yahudi then when he puts the blame on that Yahudi and leaves some signs for, but he was exposed because of some reasons. I'm not going to in that detail of that story. But the point here is that they were trying, him and his tribes were trying to mislead Rasulullah sallallahu, misinform him, and trying to see that Rasulullah sallallahu favors him instead of favoring the Jew who has not committed this crime of stealing, but this person has done it. So there where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about these people, his people and himself, that يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ. They hide from people and they don't hide from Allah. That is, they are trying to hide things from the people, but they cannot hide it from Allah. يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مَعْهُمْ إِذْ يُبَيِّتُونَ مَا لَا يَرْضَى مِنَ الْقَوْلِ. And he is with them when they make their plans at night together. When they are planning how to convince Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he is not to give the verdict against him and in favor of that Jew. So that's where it is. يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ النَّاسِ وَلَا يَسْتَخْفُونَ مِنَ اللَّهِ وَهُوَ مَعْهُمْ إِذْ يُبَيِّتُونَ مَا لَا يَرْضَى مِنَ الْقَوْلِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِمَا يَعْمَلُونَ مُحِيطًا. So this is a verse which is also mentioned, shows that how cautious we should be if we know this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala al-Alim, that he knows all of our actions, all our intentions, not only the actions but also intentions, and moreover things which we have not even committed yet. Allah knows that. So there is nothing hidden from him. So how we should be careful about our future plans, how we should be careful of what we do, how sincere we should be in our actions and deeds, because Allah knows the intentions. Allah knows the intentions. إن تجهر بالقول فإنه يعلم السر وأخفى. So that's actually the meaning in this particular name, the meaning of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now if we know that, now I mentioned some of the things, once you know that, what is basically expected from a person who knows this is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is a person who has the ma'rifah of this name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he should try to first of all get, and as some of the scholars have mentioned, he should try to get knowledge, because this is ilm, is knowledge. So he should try to acquire knowledge. If he knows that Allah is Alim, he should also try to get the knowledge. And the knowledge of what? The knowledge of the deen, right? Try to get the knowledge of the deen. And the most important in the knowledge of the deen is the knowledge of the ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To know Allah. We need to know Allah. That ma'rifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in fact, comes through knowing His names and attributes. That's what we are doing. Alhamdulillah. So this is the most important of all the knowledge, all the ilm. The most important knowledge is the knowledge of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what is called to get the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then this person would have, basically, he would be satisfied on the qadr. He knows that what is happening to me, Allah knows it. So he will not complain about anything. He knows that Allah is Alim and Allah is Al-Hakim. So Allah is, whatever He is doing, what is happening to me, then it is definitely good for me. So he will be patient at the time of difficulties, knowing that Allah knows it. If Allah knows it, then it is the hikmah of Allah that I am going through this. What is I am going through? And there is the wisdom of Allah, and so it is definitely good for me. So he will not complain. He would be patient. Such a person would be patient at the time of difficulty, right? He will be patient. And he will be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of whatever he receives. And he will seek Allah's pardon for whatever wrong he does. Because he knows that Allah knows what I have done. Allah has seen what I am doing. Allah knows it. So he will be shy. He will be shy. And that's why Rasulullah said that shyness is from Iman. Al-Hayaw min al-Iman. What's Hayaw min al-Iman? This shows this hadith is directly related to this. That he would be shy to do anything when he knows that Allah knows what I'm going to. Even thinking, the thoughts, he will be shaken, and he will be basically upset from the thoughts if some kind of thoughts are coming from shaitan to mislead him. He will be upset from it because he knows Allah knows it, right? So that's how it is. So this person would be very, very mindful, very, very careful, knowing that Allah knows everything. So his behavior would be, he will be patient, he will be thankful to Allah, he will seek pardon from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not only from the sins which he has committed, but the things which he have thought of, and he has hidden sins, all of those things he would be, because he knows Allah knows the khain of the life. وَمَا تُخْسِ الصُّدُورِ. So even that if he has some feeling of hasad from somebody, or he has some malice for someone, he knows that Allah knows it. He would like to remove it because he knows that Allah knows it. So these are the things he will correct himself, knowing that Allah knows and he will take account of everything on the day of judgment. So this person will become very, very responsible person, a patient person, Radi bi qada Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because he knows that everything is happening by the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he will not complain, he will be patient. So these are some of the aspects of knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is al-alim. وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا رب.